All right, welcome to Football Focus Weekly. I'm the Pet Man, Matt Morrow. We are sponsored by Victory Chevrolet, where just $19 down delivers any new or pre-owned vehicle in stock. Make sure you visit victorychevycharlotte.com today. All right, we're starting out with Pet Man's players tonight. We covered Mountain Island and Valentine Ridge last week on Thursday night. Mountain Island won that game 42-14, and Justice Washington had a really great standout game with 3 touchdown receptions. We did a great interview with him after the game. Backup quarterback Javon Boyd in for their starter Grayson Harvey threw 5 touchdown passes in that victory, and we had a really good interview with him after the game. The man they call 3K, Andre Ramshaw Jr., caught 2 touchdown passes as a freshman and also threw his first touchdown pass in high school. He had a really good game. We had an interview with him as well. Young quarterback Ryder Polston at Valentine Ridge as a freshman threw 2 touchdown passes, which was very impressive. I think he's got a bright future. Junior wide receiver Demetrius Martin caught one of those touchdown passes, has really good size at 6'2", 200 pounds. Athlete Caleb Owens, number 5 for Valentine Ridge, did a lot of good things, had some nice kickoff returns, and played some Wildcat quarterback along with some running back. He's got some good speed and moves in the open field. On the defensive side of things, Jason Eaton from Mountain Island had a couple of sacks and tackles for loss. He's probably the best overall defensive player in the game from a stat standpoint. Defensive back Joshua Moses, a talented senior DB, had 1 interception in the game. A very nice play. I'll tell you who really stood out to me from Valentine Ridge is this young man, Demod Lewis. He's a defensive lineman. He's a big-time player. He moved into Valentine Ridge's area from the West Coast. He's got 3 offers from West Coast schools, Division One, Power 4 schools. But I think coaches here don't really know him. And I say coach, I mean college coaches, because high school coaches know him very well. He's a 6'5", 250 pounds, gets off the ball very well. Excellent moves off the line of scrimmage, and I'm sure he's been getting double and triple teamed all season long for good reason. And then defensive back Jeremiah Payton had an interception. 6'2" freshman, free safety. He's got a really bright future ahead of him. And then now I want to highlight some kids whose season is over now because last week was really the end of the regular season. So defensive lineman Josh Watts at Berry has some really good moves off the line of scrimmage. He can rush the pass and also defend the run. Jay Sean Shaw can also play some defensive end along with his linebacker position. He's a leader for that Berry football team, tackles well in space. He can also rush the passer from the edge position. Linebacker Ryan Haley for North Mecklenburg. He's a hammer in the middle of the defense, a true middle linebacker who is physical at the point of attack and can set the tone defensively. Athlete Jonquarius Moody, excellent speed in the open field. He didn't get a lot of opportunities this season, but as he continues to grow and get stronger, he will be a big-time playmaker for sure. Number 0 for Garinger, athlete Cayman Carroll. If you saw Garinger, you knew that this young man could do some things with the football in his hands when given the chance. He's a good athlete. He has some good speed. And I think that, if he gets the opportunity to perform in front of college coaches, they'll like what they see. James Bailey III at East Meck was the number 1 threat for that team. On offense with, from a skill perspective and also in the defensive backfield. He's a really, really good football player, and he's got another year coming up as a junior. Offensive lineman Sadeka Griffin Jr. is a massive young man who can move well at the tackle position. He's got a couple of offers now from the college recruiting perspective, and, I think he's going to get more attention coming his way as we get deeper into the offseason. Number 1, Messiah Cage at Hopewell. He was their best receiver, really good sized kid. I think he's like 6'3", 6'4". He's physical in his blocking. He can high point the football and win one-on-one matchups on the outside. I really like his game. I think he's got, potential on the next level. Cash Hunter for South Mecklenburg. He's just been, steady as they go in that offense. He's been a rock, someone they've leaned on the past couple of years to move the football down the field. Talk about a rock. Defensive lineman Cam Gibson, and it's like a rock on the defensive line, man. You can't move him. He's tough, he's strong, he's big, 6'4", 300 plus pounds. Really underrated as a player. Searman Conde at Providence. He's an excellent size prospect as a receiver. I think he's got good hands. He runs good routes. He's another one I'm excited to see get a shot to play college football. RJ Alexander at Myers Park. He's a really good and fast player out of the backfield. He can catch out the backfield. He's got good vision with the football in his hands. That's another one, I would like to see get an opportunity in front of some college coaches. Offensive lineman Colby Breland at Chambers. I just watched his film the other day. He's very physical. He likes to mix it up. He can get out in space, and he can bend, and he can move. He's a good offensive lineman that should see some opportunities come his way. Parker Ludwig at RGKL, one of the defensive leaders on that team. He really gets to the football well. I think RGKL had a good overall defense this year, and he was a big part of it. Linebacker Christopher Worster at Stuart Kramer is a tackling machine. He's only a junior, but I'm excited to see how he continues to progress. With the Stuart Kramer team that's young, but they're young together, and they took a couple steps this year in winning a couple of games, and we'll see how they continue to move forward into next season. Soto Kelly at Providence just picked up his first offer to play college football as a junior. He had a really good season, kind of stepping into a safety role there, making a lot of tackles, some tackles for loss. He's very aggressive. He tackles well in space, and he gets to the football. Defensive lineman Amari Broom with Stuart Kramer. I just talked about him, but Amari is also growing as a player. Took a step up this season to varsity from the JV level, and made some contributions and had a couple big games in the middle of that defensive lineman as a defensive tackle. Athlete Design Geiger from Albemarle. He can play defensive back or he can play wide receiver. He was an all-conference player last year. He should get that designation again this season. Albemarle only had a couple of threats, but he was one of the big ones, and he could really make some plays if you leave him in one-on-one coverage as a receiver. Defensive lineman Rylan Russ from Piedmont, excellent size at 6'4". He's one of those edge, type of players that, college coaches are really craving. And he does a really good job in, setting the edge in the running game. He can also get after the quarterback, rushing the passer. And then Mikael Mechanico from Chambers is a really good linebacker. I like his athleticism in space. I think he can be a 3-down backer. He tackles well, and he really, has good speed in getting to the football. So those are Pet Man's players, which are also sponsored by Victory Chevrolet of Charlotte. All right. Welcome to Football Focus Weekly. And we got one comment in the bucket. J-Man's tuned in. We're having a day, man. We're having a day. I wanted to start at 7. I got a phone call right before the show. So that's why we're on a little late, but it's okay. We're here, and we're going to have a good show. And it's just going to be me. So please, if you're watching, send in your comments. I told the guys, I said, look, most of you guys have got playoff games to focus on. I want you to focus on your playoff games. So that's why it's just me. And that's just something I decided to do. They didn't decide that. I decided that because I just, when you're in the playoffs, I want them to, be locked in totally. Jonathan Mitchell, good evening. Good to see you, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk about Huff here in a little bit. Jason Hubbard, good to see you, man. One of the best pass rushers in the state of North Carolina joining the show. There you go. Gene Neely, what's up, man? Good to see you. I'm glad your son's okay as well. I saw you post on Facebook. I know that was tough to see that, but I'm glad he's all right, man. So once again, this is kind of going to be like Friday Night Live as far as your comments. You throw something out there, I'll probably going to put it up on screen. Just so I'm not talking to myself here. What's up, Mr. Watson? I hope them J.M. Robinson Bulldogs are ready to roll. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. James Law has got Huff going all the way to the third. Was it third or fourth round? Which one? We're gonna talk about that in a minute. I'm gonna do something tonight that I've never done before. And you guys will see it here in a minute. And it's probably gonna come back to bite me, but I won't do it anyway. But anyways, so tonight we're gonna do the final rankings, final regular season rankings for the Dirty Dozen and for the CMS Best to Last. So I'm gonna go through those as I switch my screen here. Joe, ain't no way. There's no way I'm gonna do that. That's a promise. Let me share this real quick. So where we live, there's not a lot of options out here, and one of the issues with that is there's not a lot of places to get wings out here. And I'm so excited because we're going to be moving soon, and where we're moving to, there is a wing spot literally 3 minutes from the house. And I probably don't need that, but anyway, I just had to share that. All right. Yeah, we're close, man. We're close. It's the best time of the year. It's the best time of the year if you really love high school football, man. Oh, I'm sorry, James. Let's see. You got Huff going all the way. No more third or fourth round losses. Okay. I've heard that sentiment a good bit, from people saying that this is a different Huff team. And I agree. They are a different team. And that's just my opinion, from seeing them over the past few years. But we'll knock this stuff out real quick. Let's go to the final Dirty Dozen. There's not a lot of changes from the last one that we did. I'll put this one out on Instagram, later on after the show. But pretty much everyone's locked into where they are, in my honest opinion. Providence Day is in the NCISAA state championship game. And we say state because they're playing Raven Gap down in Georgia. But they are in the championship game against Raven Gap. It is a rematch from earlier this season where Raven Gap defeated them pretty good. It was a close game until about mid-fourth quarter. Then it kind of got away from Providence Day. So they've got some confidence that they can go down there, they can compete and win the football game. And we're pulling for them always. Anytime Charlotte is going on the road, especially out of state, we want them to come back with a championship. So Coach Greer and those guys, hope you guys travel safe going down there. And Raven Gap's got a lot of talent. I mean, nationally ranked talent. But Providence Day, we know, has their own share of talent. It's hard to beat a good team twice. And, Providence Day is a really good football team. So really hoping they're able to get a win and come represent for North Carolina and bring us home a championship, man. We're all pulling for you. That's for dang on sure, man. For the rest of these teams on here, they're all Charlotte Christian season is over. They lost to Providence Day last week in a rematch. Like we said was gonna happen in the NCISAA playoffs. But Charlotte Christian has some really good players too. And I should have included them on Pet Man's players, but I ran out of space there. But I'm gonna shout out Jamal Rule. Jamal Rule had a heck of a game running the football for Charlotte Christian in that football game. I think he was close to over 200 yards rushing. Yeah, I believe it's what I saw. If not, he went over 200. But he's a heck of a running back. He's got another year coming back. He'll be a senior year next year, so he'll be a big piece of that Charlotte Christian team. But everyone else here has got a playoff game, and we're gonna try to I'm gonna try to talk about the vast majority of these guys here tonight. And then finally, I see your questions. Give me a second. And the final CMS Best to Last is pretty much the same. I did move Providence up to 10 because they finished the season pretty well. But here's the thing, man, and I can't remember the last time that we can say this is, oh my goodness. We've got 7 playoff teams out of Charlotte, out of CMS anyway. Charlotte Catholic is also a playoff team, but they're not in CMS. But Usually we get at least 10 to 12. So Audrey Kill just barely missed. Chambers was relatively close. But yeah, that's what we got this year. So that's the final regular season ranking update. If we have any changes, we'll update it going forward. But that's pretty much everyone's kind of pretty much locked in as far as I'm concerned as far as ranking these guys. So all right. Let's go here. It says Independence over Mallard Creek. I mean, wouldn't you say you think there's a big difference there? Indy hadn't got shut out. Well, I mean, I think they're pretty much equal. I mean, if they played, it's gonna be a close game. You know that's how I see it anyway. I mean, I get it. Some people may question it, but that's how I see it. Scott saying, how can Mount Pleasant be ranked higher than Northwest Cabarrus? Well, let me go back to my list because I didn't think what ranking you talking about? I don't know what ranking you're talking about there, Scott. Because Mount Pleasant is. Oh, you're saying on the knocking on the door. Oh, Mount Pleasant played J.M. Robinson really close, and I know Northwest Cabarrus did too. But Mount Pleasant went on the road, and they had a fourth quarter lead on J.M. Robinson, and I thought that was really impressive. Now, both of those teams, I think, are really close. I saw that game when those two teams played earlier this season, and Mount Pleasant played them, to a virtual deadlock. They Northwest Cabarrus won 16-14. But I know some both players on both sides were missing in that game. But I mean, we talking about Cabarrus County. I mean, those two are right there neck and neck. I mean, if I had more room on the screen, I probably would have put Northwest Cabarrus right there with them. So it's not a major difference. It's probably the difference of this paper right here. that's how close they are. In all honesty, to me anyway. Let's see. James Law says Myers Park shot me this year, but losing that quarterback was tough. I mean, you guys saw him in the Keep Pounding Classic in the first game of the season. When they came out their second half, and we were there. Going into halftime, when Myers Park was down, I think it was 24-0. We thought that game was over. I mean, there was no energy, there was no juice. Independence was in control, and coming out their second half, and they just turned him loose. And then I say him, I mean their quarterback, Jared Lockhart. And he got out there and was just throwing it deep all over the field. He had us hooking up with Chaz Portis, and they got the juice going in the stadium, and they were one pass away from coming back with a major victory. Yeah, losing him, that was a major loss. And but you could say that for a lot of high school football teams, to be honest with you. But he's a dynamic player. And when you enjoy high school football, you want to see the best players play. And not being able to see that for the whole season, for that young man is tough. Like, he's going to go on and play college football somewhere, and he's going to be like, honestly, let me not put that on the young man. I won't say that, but I think he's going to really turn some heads on the next level. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to switch my screen here. Bear with me. Oh, goodness. What happened? Where did I go? Technical issues tonight. Good gracious. Tried to switch screens, and I'm just going dark over here. All right. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do tonight. and I've never done this before, but I'm going to offer predictions for every first round game in the West for at least 4A and 3A. And I'm going to explain a little bit for each game. So, y'all get comfortable, and we're going to do this because it's playoff time. And I didn't want to do it Sunday because I wanted to take some time to at least kind of, think about each game and, really kind of dig in a little bit. But all right, here we go. And I wish the bracket I wish you could see the whole name of the team, because some of these like Southeast, you don't know who the heck that is. So some of these I'm gonna have to expand. But the first one we're gonna look at Grimsley and Western Guilford. I don't think there's gonna have to be a lot of analysis about that. That's Grimsley. So we'll put Grimsley in the second round here. All right, so then we got Reagan, and this is Reagan against Southeast Guilford. Now, the thing about Reagan is Reagan was a fourth place conference team. They lost their quarterback in that game where they beat Mooresville earlier this season. So they've been playing with the backup quarterback for most of the season here. Southeast Guilford, 4-1 in their conference. Now they're on the road, but to be honest with you, I'm gonna have to go with Southeast Guilford to get that victory over Reagan. James Law says Western Guilford beating Grimsley. Now I'm gonna tell you, James. All right, if Western Guilford beats Grimsley, I will let you host this show next week, and I'll buy you 20 chicken wings. That means you got to be on camera. You can't just, post on your name right there. But everyone saw that. That's our bet. Now, if Grimsley, I ain't gonna do that to you. All right. So next we got Charlotte Catholic taking on Porter Ridge. Now, Charlotte Catholic won the Southwestern 4A, and they won it by behind the strength of that big victory over Independence. Towards the middle of the season, they had a nice drive. Quarterback Charlie Smith had a beautiful drive throwing the football, which they don't really do that much. But the thing with them is, people forget this. Last year, they ran the spread, so they can throw it if they need to, and they've proven that in critical situations. The game they lost at Crest, they had a drop pass, or they would have beat Crest at the last second. So Charlotte Catholic has been in close games against good teams, and they've been battle tested. So Porter Ridge, I think it's really good for them. That's how well coached they are. Coach Hertz in that program does an awesome job getting those guys ready. They lost a ton of seniors last year. I believe they only had 4 returning starters. They played one of the toughest conferences in the state down in Union County, and they found a way to still get into the playoffs. I think that's really impressive. But I like Charlotte Catholic to move on here. And then we've got Palisades and Page. And this Page team is out of Greensboro. They're 3-7. They're a younger team. They got some athletes. Their wins are not been over anyone that I would call, super impressive. But they've played some tough teams. So that being said, it won't be a shock to the system when they come down here and play Palisades, but Palisades has something going this year. Coach Simmons and those guys, this is their first foray into the playoffs, third year overall as a school. Kendrick Davis is an incredible linebacker. If you hadn't seen him, East Carolina, I think, got a steal. I think he could go even bigger if he wanted to. He's a heck of a player. Jashay Brown, another linebacker in that program. Their defense is really good. It's a really good defense. Offensively, they They can pick their spots, and the good thing about them is offensively they're a balanced team. It's not like you can say they're a run team or they're a passing team. They can do both. They do what the defense gives them. The quarterback's a dual threat guy. They got a good running back in Turner. They had a couple good receivers. I like Palisades to move on here over Page. Let's see here. James says to see Catholic versus Grimsley. That'd be a heck of a matchup. It could happen. It could happen. I would say though, Catholic Palisades, if we get that round 2, that'll be a fun one to break down. Archie Kell could have got in over Page. Don't get me started on this. I got a whole story I could tell about RPIs and Page, but I don't want to be that guy on here. I don't want to be that guy. All right, Huff taking on South Iredell in the first round. So South Iredell, this is another team. I saw South Iredell in the preseason, and I didn't think they were going to have a really strong season, to be honest with you. Their coach up there has done an excellent job with that program. Noah Klum at middle linebacker is a tackling machine for those guys. He is a senior. And if South Iredell is going to pull a monumental upset, he will have to have a monster game, 20-plus tackles. South Iredell D-line will have to do a good job of keeping the Huff offensive line from getting second level so he can run free and make plays. That's a tall order. Huff has so many guys that can get things done offensively. And then Trey Blakeney has been playing at a super high level at quarterback all season long. I just think Huff's got too much talent overall for South Iredell in this one, man. So I got them moving on. Mount Tabor going up against Independence. A lot of people across the state have said this is the best first round game in the state playoffs. I agree with them. I mean, yeah, I said on Sunday, this is a third round level matchup. Just the talent on both sides of the football here. I mean, you got Snoop Peterkin from Mount Tabor, who's a wide receiver and a DB going to Virginia Tech. You got Jadon Blair, who's a safety who can play offense and defense, going to Notre Dame. You got Jaden Jones, a 2,000-yard rusher, one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the state of North Carolina. This is a high-level matchup for the first round. I'll tell you, I did pick this game. It was in the Greater Metro 4. We're still doing the pick 'em and doing the playoffs. And I told him, I said, you don't have me get in trouble with these picks, down the road. But I picked Independence in this one, and the reason why is senior experience. This Independence team went on a run last year to the state semifinals where they lost to Weddington, one round before the championship game. I think that counts for something. These guys have been through wars together, and they've got some seniors that, don't want this to be their last game. I believe in, the quarterback, Justin Little's a senior. You got Crowder at receiver, who's a senior. Cam Martin at linebacker is a senior. There's some really good players that are leaders that I think this game is going to be nip and tuck. I think it's going to come down, to the fourth quarter. But I think that leadership and experience is going to push them over the top here. And the other thing is this. They went on the road last year, and they went on that run. This is the same type of setup. They're a low seed again. They're dangerous. They're going to use that to fuel them. And I think we got a Huff Independence matchup in the second round that the city is going to be excited to see. I think that's my prediction. But what I say doesn't matter on Friday night. But that's what I think here. Mallard Creek is taking on Lake Norman. Producer is going to be at this game, and he's going to be live tweeting. I know the game is being streamed, but if you're in a place where you can't see the game, make sure you follow Producer on Twitter. He'll have updates. I'll retweet as much as I can. I'm not going to be in town this Friday, so Producer will be, kind of updating that game, and he'll be there on the sideline to share his observations. And I think Shaquan is going to go here too. He's going to cover that with his, pictures and highlights. So anyway, that being said, you start thinking about this game. Lake Norman has had a good season, and they've done it behind a freshman quarterback in Caden Kraft, he's going to be a dynamite player. He's got the size, he's got the physical traits, he's got the intangibles to be a really good quarterback. But he's a freshman, and the thing Mallard Creek does very well is defense. And it's hard for me to think that this Mallard Creek defense is going to allow a freshman quarterback to come in and really kind of, take control of the game. They've got a lot of strength up front in the defensive line. They've got speed at all three levels. It's going to be hard for Lake Norman to consistently move the football. The interesting thing I want to see in this game is we know Mallard Creek is going to run the football offensively. Lake Norman has a dynamic player in Jacob Domingo on the defensive line who they'll have to account for. He's probably their best defensive lineman, maybe their best overall player on defense. It'll be interesting to see if Mallard Creek, I think Mallard Creek's got an advantage on the outside, and I said the same thing on Sunday. It'll be interesting to see if they, take advantage of that a little bit as far as throwing the football. They got their 3 quarterback system that's worked for them for most of the season. It'll be interesting to see if they stick with that, or are they going to kind of settle in on a guy now that we're in the playoffs. So all that being said, I like Mallard Creek to win the game and move on here. Trayvon Gaither says Mallard Creek by 3 touchdowns plus. Wow, Trayvon. Okay. I don't think it's gonna be that big of a margin. But okay. We'll see. We'll see for sure. All right. Next matchup we got Watauga taking on Ragsdale here. Won't spend a lot of time on this one. I like Watauga. I like what they do in the playoffs. They do some really great things schematically. They've got a great senior quarterback in Maddox Green, who is a heck of a football player, man. He also plays baseball. Dual threat kid. Really good young man too. All right. On the other half of the bracket, we got the toughest 3:30 matchup that I've ever seen. We got East Forsyth taking on Butler, and East Forsyth probably has to feel like, what did we do to earn this? Because we said Butler was going to be a really tough low seed and that no high seed wanted to see them. East Forsyth, excellent offensive team. Bryce Baker at quarterback, one of the best ones around, committed to North Carolina. He's got a couple of receivers up there that they can make some big plays throwing the football. They're a very good offensive team. That being said, I think Butler will be able to run the football on them. This is a contrasting styles kind of game. If Butler can find a way to get a couple of stops, kind of like what they did with Independence. Independence, moved the ball well. Jaden Jones had a big game running, but they got a couple of stops. And they were in the game in the fourth quarter, but they just couldn't get over the hump there. They got to have the same kind of idea here. keep East Forsyth in check just a couple times. You're not going to stop them. They're too good. You're not just going to totally shut them out. But if you can stop them a couple of times, possess the football, run the football, first downs, they got a good dual threat quarterback in there now. Zach Lawrence most likely is out. The young man, Marino, has come in and done a great job running the offense, zone read, quarterback run type stuff. Jaden Williams runs the ball really well as a tailback. But if they can get a couple stops defensively, run the football well, keep it close, make East Forsyth feel the pressure at home, they could get a huge upset. It's possible. This is not a typical blowout first round 3:30 matchup. East Forsyth is going to have to come to play, and they know that. They're very well coached with Coach Willard and his staff. They've been through the wars. They've won a couple championships. But this is a tough game. This is a tough game for them. They played a game against West Forsyth now 2 weeks ago, 49-42. West Forsyth has a good offensive line. West Forsyth can run the football. Butler has a good offensive line. They can run the football. You can see how it sets up. I will pick East Forsyth to win because I think their offensive talent at the end of the day will get them past Butler, but it will be tough. This game will be close. At least I think so. But once again, what I say doesn't matter on Friday night. The next matchup is another good matchup, but these instead of a contrasting style game, these teams are similar as far as West Forsyth and Cuthbertson. And I say similar from the fact they both have good offensive lines and they both can run the football. Cuthbertson, I think, is a little better defensively overall than West Forsyth. No one's really talking about this game. I think this is another really good first round game here because Cuthbertson, once again, comes from that tough Union County Conference, and they were the second best team out of that conference. And they gave Weddington a fight, a couple weeks ago. So for West Forsyth, they got to be careful here. They can't look past them to a potential rematch with East Forsyth because that's their big rival. They got to win the game in front of them first. But Mason Iovino at Cuthbertson, a heck of a running back. Cole Webster, a great defensive lineman. Hunter Eichelberger, a middle linebacker for Cuthbertson, is a heck of a player. Man, this is the tough one, man, because I could see Cuthbertson doing something here, but West Forsyth at home, we've been up there in the playoffs. Chambers went up there a few years ago when they went on their run. They will pack that stadium out. I mean, there will not be any room to sit down if things haven't changed up there. They really get behind their football team. It's a good environment. I'm gonna say West Forsyth, but it's gonna be close, man. It's gonna be close. That's it. The offensive line of West Forsyth versus the Cuthbertson defensive front is gonna be a heck of a battle. And whoever wins that battle at the line of scrimmage for 4 quarters is gonna win the game. And that could go either way. That really could. All right, we got Mooresville, the 6th seed, taking on Alexander Central, the 27. Mooresville coming into this game, obviously winning the Greater Metro 4 Conference with a big win over their rival Lake Norman. Alexander Central, they run a heavy run offense. I think that really favors Mooresville. I saw the young man, defensive lineman Skies Carr, got his first offer from Shaw today. He's a really unsung hero. He allows those linebackers, Jamari Farmer, Tanner Finnerty, to run free and make plays at the second level. I think he'll be a big part of slowing down a heavy run team of Alexander Central. But Mooresville, I think they've got too much offensive firepower. Brody Norman is having a heck of a season so far. J-Man in the backfield along with Eric Heel, Dominic Moore on the outside, and they've got Gavin Barber at tight end. There's just too many offensive threats for a team like Alexander Central to pull the upset here. So I like Mooresville to move on. Another interesting game right here. We got come up. There we go. Stays on the screen. Northwest Guilford going up against Olympic, a battle of 2 8-2 football teams who I think are on a very similar level here. Very similar. You start thinking about it, man. The big key for Olympic is protecting the football. If they protect the football and they win the turnover margin, they can win this football game. Because when they do that, they play good defense, and they've played good defense down the stretch here. Ever since that loss to Palisades, I think they've played well. They've come through in some close games. If this game had a line, it would be a pick 'em. I really think both of these teams are that close. Most people would probably favor the home team here. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'll say Olympic. I'll say Olympic moves on here, and once again, this is an experience thing. Olympic has seniors that were on a team 2 years ago that was undefeated coming into the playoffs. And those seniors have experience. They have leadership. And I think that's going to pull them through in a situation like this. Northwest Guilford lost a really good player last season who was their quarterback. And I think they've done a heck of a job to get back to this point. But I like Olympic here to pull through and their, seniors to really play well. Guys like Devin Walker, Solomon Ford, Alex Wiley on the outside, D'Angelo Hall at tight end. Those guys making plays on both sides of the football. I think we'll get them through here. All right, we got this. I'm telling you, man, there's some games that are good in my opinion that I think some people are sleeping on. This is another one. Asheville, the 7 seed at home, taking on a 26 seed in Marvin Ridge. Now, I saw Asheville this summer, and their quarterback is really good. He is really good. He gets the ball out on time. He's accurate. He's not the biggest kid, but he's so smooth and he's composed. And I told somebody over the summer, I said, this Asheville team's going to be one to watch. And they said, Asheville? And I said, just watch and see. I said, if they can get it done up front, they're going to be there. And here they are, a 7 seed in the playoffs. Now, Marvin Ridge, by their standards, they had a down season. And they'll be the first ones to tell you that. They only won 4 games. But once again, they played in that tough Union County Conference where every game, we talked about it on the show, every game was close in that league. And they've got the elements. They've got the elements that travel. They've got a really good offensive line. They've got a good back in Zach Lee, who's a 3-down back. He can catch out the backfield. He can line up in the slot and play receiver. They got a good quarterback in Braden Rediger. And they've got guys on defense like Manny Lewis that are difference makers. He's a defensive lineman. And then this is what I say about Charlotte teams getting outside of the area on the road, or they come, to Charlotte, or they're playing an outside area team. Think about what they faced all season long in Asheville. Outside of competition, they had the stuff with Helene, which is unfortunate. But only talking from a football perspective, that's a big thing to deal with, man. Now, in Asheville, I'm glad they're okay there. I'm glad they're able to host the game. But, they're they haven't been, all I'm gonna say is don't be surprised if Marvin Ridge wins this game. Because I think they've been through the battles. They're a well coached team. Coach Aubrey Carter has been there a long time. Has done a good job. And we were there. We were there when they lost to Sun Valley for the second time this season, and that was on their senior night. And the feeling was that they weren't going to make it. And I think this is a second chance. This is a second chance for that team, and I will pick them. I'll pick them. I think they'll make the most of it. That's just my gut. I just hearing some different things. I don't think Asheville really knows them. At least the people I talk to, they don't really know Marvin Ridge that well. But they've got the elements, man. They got the elements to go on the road and make something happen here. All right. The next game is Northern Guilford and West Cabarrus. Northern Guilford at 9-1, West Cabarrus at 5-5. Not going to say too much about this one. And we know West Cabarrus' quarterback is done for the season. Very talented young man, Jared Street. I like Northern Guilford to move on here over West Cabarrus. Sun Valley taking on TC Roberson. Sun Valley being the home team. We saw Sun Valley. Sun Valley is a team that a lot of people don't talk about. They're 8-2. Did y'all know that? No one really talks about Sun Valley that much. And I think it's just because, they're in the shadow of Weddington, which, that's fair. But these guys have some players. They have some players, man. Noah Lineberry is a left-hander at quarterback. He gets the ball out fast. He's accurate. They've got a young man at receiver in Jaden Morrow Jones. Fast guy. Can operate out of the slot or out on the outside. Zach Cullen at running back and linebacker. Physical player. Very athletic. He can do more than you think when you first look at him. Brandon Creech on defense at linebacker is a heck of a player. They've got some big boys on both sides of the football on the lines of scrimmage. They're a tough team. When I think about them and just remembering, how I see them, in person, they're a tough football team. And then going through that conference, once again, I really like the teams that have gone through that conference. So they've been through some wars. They've been through some battles. TC Roberson, that's out of Asheville area once again. I like Sun Valley. I like Sun Valley to move on here. And then the last one in 4A, West, because I'm not doing the East. We don't have time for all that. Weddington taking on A.L. Brown. Not much to say here. I think Weddington, will move on to the second round and get a rematch with Sun Valley because they played, in conference play. All right. You guys are really locked in. There's not a lot of comments. Outside of Bilks laughing at me when my screen went black. That's all right. Happy birthday, by the way. All right, we're going to finish it up with 3A. Get that on the screen here. Okay. No 132 matchup. 1 seed Asheville Irwin. Are they really the best team in 3A West? Most people would say no. But they're going to take it. You're not going to turn it down. But I like them to win over Parkwood here in the first round. Pisgah and Smoky Mountain is an all-mountain matchup. That's a flip a coin matchup right there. But East Gaston's old coach is at Smoky Mountain now. He's got a good quarterback. I'm going to pick Smoky Mountain to defeat Pisgah there. But it's great for Pisgah to have a home game. Their stadium went through some tough devastation for the second time. They had a flood even before Hurricane Helene that really messed the stadium up. So I'm glad they get to host a playoff game. And I'm glad, they're bouncing back up there. West Charlotte and Hunter Huss in the first round. This is an 825 matchup. I like West Charlotte, and I like West Charlotte's draw. And I said this on Sunday, but let's just say I'm going to pick Freedom to beat West Rand in a very close game, by the way. That's going to come down to the end right there. But I'm going to pick the home team there. But let's say West Charlotte gets Freedom second round. You like West Charlotte in that matchup. Then let's say Irwin gets to the third round. West Charlotte, Irwin. Most of us would probably pick West Charlotte in that game. Even though Irwin's got some athletes and they can play, it's a good matchup for West Charlotte for what Irwin likes to do. And then you've got a potential fourth round matchup with in this quadrant right here. So that's a Dudley, a J.M. Robinson, a Kings Mountain. I think West Charlotte would rather see one of those more than the other. But I think they've got a great path to the fourth round before they hit someone that's really going to be a big time tough playoff game right there. But the Lions have to love this, how this sets up. I hate it for Hunter Huss because Hunter Huss got a team that, matches up very well with them. Very athletic, very fast. That kind of takes away some of their advantage they have in some of those games. Now, Huss has played some tough teams, most notably South Point, Belmont South Point. They led that game at halftime. So now West Charlotte can't come in here sleeping on Hunter Huss because they have some ability. Brown at quarterback is a heck of a player. Of course, Gene Neely on the defensive side of football is a heck of a player. So they got some guys that can do some things. I wish we were projecting Huss and Oak Grove. That would have been a really good matchup for them, because I think that, they could have got their quarterback out in space and really done some things, but the tough matchup for Huss, man, was tough there. Talked about Freedom West Rowan. Dudley over Ashboro. That goes without saying right there. Ashboro just doesn't have the athletes there. AC Reynolds, Central Davidson. AC Reynolds dealing with some injuries right now. I don't think Central Davidson has enough, though, to take advantage of it. Central Davidson's a double wing team. Teams that beat AC Reynolds typically, kind of spread them out a little bit and get them in space. I think that kind of helps AC Reynolds a little bit. So I like them to move on there. A heck of a first round game. A lot of people like this one. Kings Mountain and East Lincoln. Kings Mountain defensive line. East Lincoln can really throw the football. They've got some guys on the outside that can make some plays like Jackson Beam, the heck of a receiver. But I've seen some of Kings Mountain defensively. Antonio Armstrong at the linebacker spot, Thomas Fair at the D-line spot. They got those guys that can really make some plays and disrupt things. I don't know if East Lincoln can do that on the other side of football. Kings Mountain's been playing better offensively. The young Armstrong at quarterback is starting to come into his own. Hill at running back is a heck of a player. And then you've got the dynamic receiver on the outside in Vaughn and Jaden Gash. I like Kings Mountain here in a good game. I think it's going to be a really good game. Got J.M. Robinson in Northeast Guilford. I like J.M. Robinson to move on in that one. Setting up a heck of a second round game there with Robinson Kings Mountain if it goes to fruition. All right, we got a 3:30 matchup, Hickory and Tuscola. Goes without saying. I think Hickory, will move on in that one. 14-19, Statesville and Franklin. This is the time of year Statesville gets it going. They are always dangerous in the playoffs. They always, give out a really good game. And they always seem to move past the first round. So thank you, Trayvon. We'll go with that prediction. That's Statesville by 3 touchdowns. All right, Oak Grove with North Iredell right here. Great job for North Iredell. Like I said about South Iredell, when I saw North Iredell in the preseason, I did not think it was going to be a strong season for them. But they got it together. They did a good job of getting those guys going. 5-5 on the season. Got into the playoffs for the first time. I'm sorry, 4-6. I thought they were 5-5. 4-6 on the season, but they got into the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. But I like Oak Grove to move forward. They're a good team. I think they just got too much for North Iredell in this one. Crest Eastern Guilford. You start looking at this, Eastern Guilford has a couple of guys, but I think Crest defensively, can slow those guys down. Eastern Guilford has a really good receiver. But I don't think he's going to have and I say I don't think the quarterback's going to have time to get him the football. I think Crest on the defensive front, Kentrell Degree, number 99, is doing a really good job at the defensive tackle spot. Underrated. He's a load up in the front right there. And then the guys on the second and third levels, Jari Mosley, number 1. He's a heck of a player. He can play safety. He can play in the box as a linebacker. Really good in space. Of course, Surratt, number 4 in the secondary, is really good. Tank Ruff at corner is really good. And then offensively with Carson and the Crest receiving core, I think it's just too much for Eastern Guilford here. We got West Henderson and South Rowan. West Henderson lost their starting running back for the season. Unfortunately, he's got a broken leg. South Rowan making the playoffs for the first time in a long time. I don't think it's 84 like we talked about on the show a while ago, but it's been a long time. But I think West Henderson still has enough to get past South Rowan here. North Lincoln and North Davidson. I think North Lincoln's got too much for North Davidson here. They're playing really well. Another great first-round game in Ashbrook and Northwest Cabarrus. As I said on Sunday, this is a rematch from the playoffs a couple years ago. Northwest Cabarrus won that game a couple years ago. I believe it was like 21-9 or something like that. I could see a similar score here. It's going to be close. Both of these teams can really run the football. Northwest Cabarrus with a star running back in Jarlin Dry. I think he's over 1,500 yards rushing. You probably never heard of him. With the best running back you never heard of. Jackson Forrest is a heck of a linebacker committed to Old Dominion, tackling machine for Northwest Cabarrus. Ashbrook has some really good guys. They got a flurry of running backs and Martino Smith, Savion Lindsay, the quarterback McCain can run. He's a dual threat. Big offensive line. Jonathan Moore is a big part of that offensive line. Keegan Davis up front. Jeremiah Pagan on the defensive line is a heck of a defensive tackle. Protects Caleb Gordon at the second level at the linebacker spot. Really a lot of talent on the field in this game. It's gonna be a good one, man. This is gonna be a good physical 4-quarter football game right here. I'm gonna pick Ashbrook home field advantage here. I hope their fans really get behind this team because they've kind of grown together over the past few years. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I was at Harding and we had a really good team, we lost on the last second field goal to West Meck, or we would have been a high seed in the playoffs. But we got knocked down to a 14 seed, and we played Ashbrook, a 3 seed, and we went to Ashbrook, and we got up 14-0 on them, and it was 14-0 at halftime. And that crowd in the second half, got those guys going. And Ashbrook came back and won the game like 23-17. And that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see from the Ashbrook fans on Friday night. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be nip and tuck, but they know how to support a winner. They got a winner, and I hope they get behind them on Friday. Last game we're gonna talk about tonight: South Point, Belmont South Point hosting Montgomery Central. It's really good for Montgomery Central to get into the playoffs. Coach Metzger is a really good guy. They've got a couple of good players. They got a lineman who's really good, technically sound. He's a PWO to Wake Forest. They've got a linebacker, 6'4". He can make plays in space. You can get to the quarterback. Unfortunately, South Point's not really a passing team here. So I like South Point to win that game and to move forward here. All right. So that is our coverage on Football Focus Weekly, which is once again sponsored by Victory Chevrolet. No Friday Night Live this week. We'll be back next week with Football Focus Weekly. I think we'll have the guys next week. We'll see. I made an executive decision tonight. I want them to be locked in on the playoff game. So I may not feel that way next week. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you next week.